The Help. The Help is a novel by an American author named Catherine Stockett. It is a story about African American maids working in white households. The book is set in Jackson, Mississippi, just before the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. The story is told mainly by three women, Skeeter, Abilene, and Minnie. Skeeter is the daughter of a rich white family. Her mother wants her to get married like her friends, but Skeeter wants to be a journalist. It is beyond what was expected of a Southern white woman in the 1960s. Abilene is an African American maid. She raises white families' children only to see them grow up and leave her. Minnie, Abilene's friend, also works as a maid. These three women work together and write a book, The Help, to tell the stories of African American maids. While they are working together, a friendship develops across races and social status. Skeeter has just returned home after finishing college. One day, she meets her friends and is shocked to hear her friends discussing their project, the Home Help Sanitation Initiative.
Sharing the toilet with colored people is very dangerous. They carry diseases. That's why I've designed the Home Help Sanitation Initiative,
says Hilly. The home? The what? I ask her, hoping the maid serving us won't hear our talk.
It's a bill that requires every white home to have a separate bathroom for the colored help.
She simply answers as if that should be taken for granted. I can't believe my ears. Why can't black maids use the family bathroom while they care for the children? I make a face at her saying, maybe we ought to just build your bathroom outside. Skeeter decides to reveal the stories of these mistreated maids by writing a book. However, the problem is getting the maids to agree to speak with her. She asks Abilene, who works for the family of one of her white friends, if she can interview her for the book.
I'm surprised to find Miss Skeeter standing in front of my house. It's uncommon for white people to come to the blacks' villages.
Abilene, could you tell me about what it is like to work as a maid in white households?
Miss Skeeter, doesn't that sound dangerous to you? I whisper.
It'll be fine if we're careful.
She lowers her voice a little, but still not enough. Shh, please. I'll get fired if my boss finds out I talked behind your back.
We won't tell her or anyone. These will be private interviews.
I stare at her, thinking she must be out of her mind, but she stands firm in her belief.
No one's ever done this before. We'd be breaking new ground by writing a book of the stories.
Miss Skeeter finally whispers in my ear.
Abilene doesn't want to give interviews at first, but she finally agrees to work with Skeeter on the book. They begin spending their evenings together. Every evening, I interview Abilene, typing what she reads from her own writing. She seems excited that people are going to read the story. Our hope grows stronger. One night, Abilene says,
I want to read some books. It might help me with my own writing.
Why don't you go down to the State Street Library? There are lots of books by Southern writers, I suggest.
Ma'am, you know black people aren't allowed in the library.
I can't believe I had forgotten that. The library is only for white people. There was even a protest by black people at the library a few years ago. I'll pick up the books for you, I say. Abilene hurries to her bedroom and comes back with a list in her hand.
I'd better mark the ones I want first. Let's see.
I watch as she puts marks on the titles. The Souls of Black Folk, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and some poems by Emily Dickinson.
I read some of them back in school, but I didn't get to finish,
she says. Abilene gathers up more maids, including her best friend Minnie, to tell their stories. At first, Minnie is uncomfortable about telling black maid stories to a white woman. What makes you think colored people need your help? Do you know what will happen if people catch us? I asked Miss Skeeter. This is not a game, but a matter of life and death. There is a still moment in the room. Once I make sure she understands, I recall what my mother said to me when I first became a maid. When I was 14 years old, I dropped out of school to start my job as a maid. My mother told me several rules to keep while working in a white lady's house. I was told not to use the whites' toilets. I was also told to keep my cup, fork, and plate separate from those the whites used. On my first day at work, a white lady ordered me to wash all the clothes by hand. When I talked back, she looked at me with a cold smile, and 5 minutes later, I was kicked out on the street. Aibileen and Minnie persuade other maids to tell their stories. Their book, The Help, is eventually published and becomes a bestseller. However, Aibileen gets fired from her job because of the book.
As I walk down the street, I think about what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. It may be hard for me to continue as a maid. I feel tears falling down. At the same time, I feel free. Maybe I can be a writer. Maybe I'm not too old to start over. I can keep writing about the people I know and the things I've seen and done.
Thanks to the courage of these ordinary women, the world learned about the unfair treatment suffered by African American maids.